Enough! The roar split the air like thunder. Master Chief Vincent Drake charged into the training circle, catching the knife inches from Ivy Calloway's spine. 19 years old. Blood streaming down her face. 3 military instructors who'd spent 15 minutes trying to destroy her now flat on the ground, broken by a teenage girl they'd called weak. 200 recruits stood frozen. 12 cameras recorded everything. And Admiral William Richardson watched from his office window as his empire began to collapse. 3 military careers ended that morning. 1 legacy was born. Before you continue, subscribe and follow this story to the very end. Comment your city below. I want to see how far this journey travels. This is how it all began. The phone call came at 3:47 in the morning. Ivy Calloway was already awake. She'd been awake for hours, sitting in the darkness of her small apartment, holding a challenge coin that had belonged to her father. The metal was warm from her grip. The inscription was worn but readable. Silence is strength. Action is proof. She knew what the call meant before she answered. "It's time," Master Chief Vincent Drake said. "No greeting, no small talk. That wasn't his way." "I know. You don't have to do this, Ivy. There are other ways." "Name one." Silence on the other end. They'd had this conversation 100 times over the past 5 years. The answer was always the same. There were no other ways. Not anymore. "Your father wouldn't want—" "My father is dead." Her voice didn't waver. "He died because the system he trusted protected the wrong people. I'm not going to let that happen to anyone else." Drake exhaled slowly. "You're 19 years old. And they've been destroying recruits for 5 years. How many more Vincent? How many more kids have to break before someone does something? You're not just someone. You're Jack's daughter. If anything happens to you, then it happens." Ivy stood, walked to her window. The city lights of San Diego glittered in the distance. Somewhere out there, Naval Special Warfare Command waited. "You trained me for this. You spent 5 years turning me into something they've never seen. Either that meant something, or it didn't. It meant everything. Then trust me." Another long pause. When Drake spoke again, his voice was rough. "I made a promise to your father. I promised I'd keep you safe." "No." Ivy's grip tightened on the coin. "You promised you'd make me ready. You kept that promise. Now let me keep mine." She hung up before he could respond. The bus to Coronado left at 5:15 a.m. Ivy sat in the back, surrounded by young men who looked at her like she was lost. One of them, a thick-necked guy with a Marine Corps tattoo, leaned across the aisle. "Hey, sweetheart, you know this bus goes to Nav Spec War, right? Special Warfare Assessment?" Ivy didn't look at him. "I know. You sure you're not looking for the regular Navy recruitment center? It's about 3 miles back." "I'm sure." The Marine snorted. "Okay, princess. Your funeral." The other men laughed. Ivy said nothing. She'd learned a long time ago that words were wasted on people who'd already decided what you were. Her father had taught her that. The moment you try to convince someone you belong, you've already lost. Don't convince, demonstrate. Let your actions speak so loud they can't hear their own prejudice. She was 5 years old when he first said that to her. She hadn't understood then. She understood now. The bus rolled on. The sun rose over the Pacific. And somewhere ahead, 3 people were waiting who would learn that lesson the hard way. Naval Special Warfare Command looked exactly like what it was, a place designed to break human beings and rebuild them into something harder. Ivy stepped off the bus into controlled chaos. Instructors screamed, recruits scrambled. The air smelled like salt sweat and testosterone. She kept her head down and moved with the crowd toward the processing center. A clipboard was shoved into her hands. Forms to sign. Waivers to initial. Legal documents that basically said the military wasn't responsible if she died during training. She signed everything without reading it. She'd read it all before. Drake had made sure she knew exactly what she was walking into. Name? The processing officer was a tired-looking woman in her 40s who clearly didn't care about anything except getting through her shift. Calloway. Ivy Calloway. The woman typed, typed again. You're flagged. Ivy's heart rate didn't change. Flagged for what? Special assessment candidate. Youngest in the program. The woman looked up, actually seeing Ivy for the first time. You're 19? Yes, ma'am. You know what you're getting into? Yes, ma'am. The woman studied her for a long moment. Something flickered in her eyes. Recognition, maybe? Or warning? Building 7. Report to Staff Sergeant Webb for unit assignment. She handed over a folder. Good luck, Calloway. You're going to need it. Staff Sergeant Marcus Webb was exactly what Ivy expected. Tall, built like a recruitment poster. Blonde hair buzzed military short. Blue eyes that held the kind of cold certainty that came from never being told no. He stood at the front of Building 7, flanked by 2 other instructors. A red-haired man, built like a linebacker, Corporal Tyler Briggs, according to the intel Drake had provided. And a woman, dark-haired, hard-faced, Specialist Dana Thornton. Ivy had studied all 3. She knew their records, their psychological profiles, their weaknesses. Webb had been accused of excessive force during training exercises 4 times. Each accusation had been dismissed. His uncle was Admiral Richardson, head of Pacific Fleet Operations. Briggs had failed SEAL qualification 3 times. He'd stayed in the program as an instructor, channeling his failure into punishment for those who might succeed where he couldn't. Thornton was more complicated. She'd survived the program when women weren't supposed to. She'd done it by becoming harder than the men around her. Now she targeted other women, proving her own value by destroying theirs. 3 predators, and Ivy was about to paint a target on her back. Listen up, Webb's voice cut through the noise. You are standing at the beginning of the most difficult assessment program in the United States military. 60% of you will not make it past week 1. 80% will not make it past week 3. By the end of this program, we will have separated the warriors from the pretenders. He started walking through the assembled recruits. 50 of them. All men except for Ivy and 2 other women who stood near the back, trying to look invisible. I don't care where you came from. I don't care who your daddy was. I don't care what records you set in boot camp. All of that is meaningless here. In this program, you are nothing until we decide you're something. He stopped in front of Ivy. The silence stretched. Well, well. Webb's voice dropped, but it carried. Look what we have here. The baby of the bunch. Ivy met his eyes. Said nothing. Calloway Wright special assessment candidate. He said special, like it was a disease. You know what that means, Calloway? It means I'm here on accelerated evaluation, Staff Sergeant. It means someone with connections pulled strings to get a child into a program designed for adults. Webb leaned closer. Tell me, Calloway, who'd you have to impress to get that kind of special treatment? I impressed myself, Staff Sergeant. Someone in the formation snickered. Webb's eyes narrowed. Is that right? It wasn't a question. Well, let's see how long that self-impression lasts. Corporal Briggs. The red-haired man stepped forward. Staff Sergeant, make sure Calloway gets the full welcome experience. I want to know what we're working with. Briggs smiled. It wasn't friendly. My pleasure. The welcome experience was designed to break her in the first hour. Physical tests pushed to the edge of failure. Verbal abuse, designed to trigger emotional responses. Scenarios constructed to expose fear, weakness, hesitation. Ivy gave them nothing. She ran until her lungs burned, then ran more. She did push-ups until her arms screamed, then did more. She stood at attention while Briggs screamed inches from her face, calling her every name designed to make a woman feel small. She felt nothing. Or rather, she felt everything, but she'd learned to put it somewhere else. A skill her father had taught her, a skill Drake had perfected. Pain is information, Drake had told her during one of their endless training sessions. Fear is information. Anger is information. Don't suppress it. Process it. Use it. Let it make you sharper, not weaker. By the end of day 1, Briggs was frustrated. Thornton was watching with something that might have been interest, and Webb was suspicious. There's something wrong with that one, he said to his team during their evening debrief. No 19-year-old should be that controlled. Maybe she's just tough, Thornton offered. No, tough breaks eventually. Everybody breaks eventually. She's not breaking because she's not really trying. You think she's holding back? I think she's playing a game we don't understand yet. Webb's jaw tightened. But we're going to find out what it is. Tomorrow, we push harder. Day 2 was worse. The assessment program used a rotating series of challenges designed to test different aspects of combat readiness: physical endurance, tactical thinking, team coordination, stress response. Ivy excelled at none of them. Not because she couldn't, because she chose not to. Her scores were carefully calibrated B+ work across the board. Good enough to avoid elimination. Not good enough to attract positive attention. But she'd underestimated Webb's paranoia. Calloway, his voice stopped her as she headed toward the barracks after evening drills. A word. She turned. Webb stood alone on the training field, arms crossed. Staff Sergeant, you're holding back. I'm doing my best, Staff Sergeant. No, you're not. He walked toward her, each step deliberate. I've been training soldiers for 10 years. I know what maximum effort looks like. You're performing exactly well enough to stay in the middle of the pack. That's not coincidence. That's strategy. Ivy said nothing. What are you hiding, Calloway? Nothing, Staff Sergeant. Everyone's hiding something. He stopped 2 feet away, close enough that she had to look up to meet his eyes. Especially women who walk into special operations programs looking like they belong at a college party. You've got a secret little girl, and I'm going to find out what it is. With respect, Staff Sergeant, I'm not hiding anything. I'm just trying to get through the program. With respect, Webb laughed, but there was no humor in it. You know what I think? I think someone sent you here. I think you're someone's little project. A test case to see if women can hack it in special ops. I'm not. I don't care what you are. But I'll tell you what you're not. You're not going to make it through my program. Not because you can't. I'm starting to think maybe you can. But because I'm not going to let you. He leaned closer. Tomorrow, we have a modified training exercise. Close quarters combat. You're going to be the demonstration subject. Ivy's stomach tightened. The protocol is one-on-one drills, Staff Sergeant. Protocols are guidelines. I'm the instructor. I decide what happens in my training circle. His smile was predatory. Consider it accelerated learning. 3-on-1. Me, Briggs Thornton. No time limit. No tap-outs until I say so. That's exactly what it is. Webb stepped back. "Get some sleep, Calloway. You're going to need it." He walked away. Ivy stood alone on the empty field, her hands loose at her sides, her breathing steady. But inside, something shifted. The cold, calculating part of her mind, the part Drake had trained, started running scenarios. 3-on-1. Modified rules. No witnesses except other recruits. This wasn't training. This was punishment. The question was, did she take the punishment and maintain her cover, or did she fight back and reveal everything she was hiding? She thought about her father, about the promise she'd made at his grave. "I'm going to change the system that failed you. I'm going to make sure no one else dies because the people in charge protected the wrong people." To change the system, she needed evidence, video, documentation, proof that couldn't be denied or buried. Tomorrow, Webb was going to give her exactly what she needed. All she had to do was survive it. That night, Ivy didn't sleep. She lay in her bunk, surrounded by the sounds of 50 exhausted recruits trying to rest, and she planned. Her cover identity put her here as a special assessment candidate, a way to test whether younger candidates could handle the program's demands. Only 3 people knew the truth: Drake Admiral Catherine Shaw and Ivy herself. Admiral Shaw had authorized the operation after years of ignored reports about abuse in the training program. Recruits who'd been hospitalized, careers destroyed not by failure, but by systematic persecution. One death that had been ruled training accident, despite evidence suggesting otherwise. The evidence was always buried. Webb's uncle made sure of that. But Admiral Shaw had found a way around the protection. An undercover evaluation. A candidate who could document everything from the inside. A candidate with skills that wouldn't be detected until they were needed. Ivy was that candidate. Tomorrow, every camera in the training facility would be recording. Every angle covered. Drake would be in the observation room ready to intervene if things went too far. All she had to do was let Webb incriminate himself. But there was another part of her, the part that wasn't calculating, wasn't strategic, that wanted something else. Justice. Not the kind that came from courts and investigations. The kind that came from looking someone in the eye while you took away everything they thought they had. Webb had destroyed people. Briggs had hurt them. Thornton had betrayed her own. Tomorrow, Ivy could endure their assault and gather evidence. That was the mission. Or she could show them what they'd really been dealing with all along. She reached under her pillow and pulled out the challenge coin. The metal was cool against her palm. Silence is strength. Action is proof. Her father had been silent his whole career. He'd proven himself again and again, and it still wasn't enough. He'd died, still proving. Ivy wasn't going to die proving anything. She was going to demonstrate, once, definitively, and then she was going to watch their world burn. Dawn came too fast and not fast enough. Ivy was already dressed when the wake-up call sounded. She'd done her stretches, her breathing exercises, her mental preparations. Her body was loose and ready. Her mind was clear. Calloway. She turned. One of the other female candidates, a woman named Rodriguez, late 20s, former Army, stood by her bunk. "I heard about the drill today," Rodriguez said quietly. "The 3-on-1. Word travels fast. This place runs on rumors." Rodriguez glanced around, making sure no one was listening. "It's not right. What they're doing to you. I can handle it. Can you?" Rodriguez's eyes were worried. "Webb's done this before. There was a guy about a year ago. Big guy, too. They put him in the hospital. Ruptured spleen. He never came back." "What happened to Webb?" "Nothing. It was ruled a training accident. Guy's uncle is Admiral Richardson." Rodriguez shook her head. Be careful. Okay, don't give them any excuse. Thanks for the warning. Rodriguez nodded and walked away. Ivy watched her go, adding another piece of information to her collection. A ruptured spleen. Hospitalization. No consequences. This had been going on for years, right under everyone's noses. Today, it ended. The training field was already crowded when Ivy arrived. Word had spread. Every recruit in the program had found a reason to be near the combat circle. They stood in clusters, pretending to stretch or check equipment, their eyes constantly drifting toward the white-painted ring where the drill would take place. Webb stood in the center, flanked by Briggs and Thornton. All three wore combat training gear, light padding, fingerless gloves, the kind of equipment that protected knuckles while doing nothing to protect the person being hit. "Calloway," Webb's voice carried across the field. "Get in here." Ivy walked forward. Her pace was steady. Her breathing was even. Her heart rate was slightly elevated not from fear, but from anticipation. Around her, recruits fell silent. The only sound was her boots on the packed earth. She entered the circle. "Today's drill is close quarters combat assessment," Webb announced, his voice pitched to Carrie. "Modified protocol. 3 instructors, 1 candidate. Duration unlimited. Medical intervention only for loss of consciousness or serious bleeding." Staff Sergeant. One of the senior recruits stepped forward. "That's not standard protocol. Regulations say, I know what regulations say." Webb's voice went cold. "I also know that sometimes regulations don't prepare soldiers for real combat situations. This is an advanced assessment. If Calloway can't handle it, she doesn't belong here anyway." The recruit looked at Ivy. She gave a tiny shake of her head. "Don't. This is what I need." The recruit stepped back. "Any questions, Calloway?" Webb asked. "No, Staff Sergeant." "Good. Then let's begin." They didn't wait. Briggs came from the right, Thornton from the left. Webb stayed back watching, waiting for his moment. Ivy had trained for this scenario 1,000 times. 3 attackers, limited space, no rules, but she wasn't fighting. Not yet. She absorbed Briggs's first strike on her forearms, letting the impact push her sideways directly into Thornton's kick. The blow caught her in the ribs. She felt something crack, a floating rib probably. Painful, but not disabling. She went down. The recruits watching gasped. "Get up!" Webb shouted. "Fight back!" Ivy rose slowly. Blood from a split lip dripped down her chin. Briggs came again. A combination jab cross hook. She blocked the jab, took the cross on her shoulder, dodged the hook. But she didn't counter. Didn't attack. Didn't do anything that would end this quickly. Because this needed to last. The cameras needed to capture everything. "What's the matter, little girl?" Thornton circled behind her. "Scared. Just pacing myself." Thornton's kick caught her in the back of the knee. Ivy collapsed. This time she was slower to rise. Her body was starting to feel the damage. Bruised ribs, strained knee, multiple contusions, but her mind was still clear, still calculating. 3 minutes down. Evidence accumulating. Medical threshold approaching, but not crossed. Webb stepped forward. His turn. "You know what I think, Calloway?" He circled her like a shark. "I think you're a fraud. I think whoever sent you here thought you were something special, and you're not. You're just another pretty face who thought she could play soldier." Ivy said nothing. Saved her breath. "Hit me." Webb smiled. "Come on." Show me what you've got. She didn't move. No. His smile widened. Then I guess I'll have to make you. His attack was fast, skilled, years of training condensed into a combination designed to overwhelm. Ivy blocked, dodged, absorbed what she couldn't avoid. But still she didn't fight back. Blood ran into her eyes from a cut on her forehead. Her ribs screamed with every breath. Her knee threatened to give out with every step. The recruits watched in silence. Some looked away. Others couldn't. Enough of this. Webb's voice carried contempt. Briggs, Thornton, let's finish it. All three of them came at once. Later, people would argue about what happened next. Some said Ivy simply broke. Others said she'd been playing possum the whole time. A few, the ones who'd been watching closely, said they saw the exact moment when something changed behind her eyes. 1 second she was absorbing punishment like a punching bag. The next second she wasn't. Briggs threw a haymaker that should have taken her head off. Ivy wasn't there. She'd dropped under the swing, pivoted on her good knee, and come up inside his guard. Her palm struck his elbow at exactly the right angle. The joint hyperextended with a sound like a dry branch snapping. Briggs screamed. He was unconscious before he hit the ground. Thornton came next, a kick aimed at Ivy's damaged ribs. But Ivy was already moving, already inside the arc of the kick. Her fingers found pressure points. Her leverage found joints. Thornton went down in a submission hold, so technically perfect that she had no choice but to tap. When Ivy released her, Thornton couldn't stand. Her leg had been immobilized at the nerve cluster. 4 seconds. 2 instructors down. Webb stood alone. The silence on the training field was absolute. 200 people had stopped breathing. What? Webb's voice broke. He cleared his throat. What the hell are you? Ivy straightened. Blood dripped from her wounds. Her body was damaged, exhausted, running on fumes. But her eyes were something else entirely. I'm Ivy Calloway, she said. Her voice was quiet, steady, carrying to every ear on that field. Daughter of Commander Jack Phantom Calloway, SEAL Team 6. And I've been waiting 5 years to meet you, Staff Sergeant. Webb's face went white. You didn't just assault a random recruit, Ivy continued. You assaulted the daughter of a man who died protecting people like you. A man whose best friend has been training me since I was 14 years old. This is impossible. You wanted to know what I was hiding. Ivy smiled. It was her father's smile. Cold. Certain. Final. Now you know. Webb did what every bully does when they realize they're not the predator anymore. He attacked. It was the worst decision of his life. The fight lasted 4 minutes and 12 seconds. Webb was genuinely skilled. 10 years of combat training. Instructor-level certification in multiple martial arts. He'd never lost a fight in his military career. He lost this one. Not because Ivy was stronger. She wasn't. Not because she was faster. She wasn't that either. She won because she knew him. She'd studied every fight he'd ever been in. She'd analyzed his patterns, his tells, his weaknesses. She knew he favored his right side. She knew he dropped his guard after combinations. She knew he got frustrated when opponents didn't react the way he expected. She used all of it. Every strike she landed was precise. Every defense was minimal. Every movement conserved energy while spending his. 3 minutes in, he was breathing hard. His combinations were getting sloppy. His footwork was failing. 3.5 minutes, he overextended on a desperate swing. 4 minutes, Ivy had him in a chokehold, his consciousness fading, his career ending with every second. She could kill him. Everyone watching knew it. Instead, she leaned close and whispered in his ear, "This is what mercy looks like. Remember it." She released him. Webb collapsed, gasping for air, his world shattered around him. Ivy stood over him, bloodied and broken, but unbowed, and waited. The knife came 30 seconds later. Webb had crawled to the edge of the circle, while everyone was still processing what they'd witnessed. No one noticed him grab the training knife that had been left near the equipment bags. No one noticed him struggle to his feet. No one noticed him lunge at Ivy's back. But someone saw. "Enough!" The voice cracked across the field like a thunderclap. Master Chief Vincent Drake strode out of nowhere, his massive frame moving with a speed that belied his age. He caught Webb's knife hand mid-thrust, twisted, and put the staff sergeant face down on the ground with a control technique that looked almost gentle. Behind him came Admiral Catherine Shaw in full dress uniform, followed by 6 Naval Criminal Investigative Service agents. The field erupted into chaos. "Staff Sergeant Marcus Webb," Drake's voice carried to every ear. "You are under arrest for assault conspiracy to commit bodily harm and attempted murder of a commissioned evaluator." "This is insane," Webb struggled uselessly. "She attacked us. Every second of this exercise has been recorded by 12 different camera systems," Admiral Shaw said. "We have documentation of every illegal protocol modification, every discriminatory statement, and every blow you struck. Your career isn't just over, Staff Sergeant. Your freedom is over." NCIS agents moved to secure Briggs and Thornton, both of whom were still incapacitated. Ivy stood in the center of the circle, swaying slightly. The adrenaline was fading. The pain was arriving. Drake reached her in 3 strides. For a moment, the legendary SEAL instructor just looked at her, at this young woman he'd trained since she was 14, who'd just done what no one thought possible. "Your father," he said quietly, "would be so proud." Ivy's composure cracked. Just for a second. Just enough for one tear to escape down her bloodied cheek. "I know," she whispered. "I know." She collapsed into his arms as her body finally admitted it had nothing left. The last thing she heard before unconsciousness claimed her was Webb screaming that this wasn't over, that his uncle would fix this, that they'd all pay. He was wrong. It was over. And everything was about to change. Ivy woke to the sound of arguing. Her body registered pain, first ribs screaming, knee throbbing, face swollen. Then came awareness, white ceiling antiseptic smell, the steady beep of monitors. Military medical facility. The arguing came from somewhere close. 2 voices. One she recognized. "You had no authority to run this operation on my base." "With respect, Admiral, I had every authority, signed by the Secretary of the Navy himself." Admiral Richardson and Admiral Shaw, going at each other like wolves fighting over territory. Ivy kept her eyes closed, kept her breathing steady. Listened. "Marcus Webb is my nephew. He's a decorated instructor with 10 years of exemplary service. He's a predator who's been destroying recruits for 5 years while you looked the other way." "That's a serious accusation, Catherine." "It's not an accusation. It's documented fact. 12 camera angles, 6 hours of footage. Your nephew tried to murder an undercover evaluator with a training knife. On video, in front of 200 witnesses." Silence. When Richardson spoke again, his voice had changed. Softer, more dangerous. "Who authorized this operation?" "I did." "On whose orders?" "My own. After 4 years of watching your office bury every complaint that crossed your desk." "You're making a career-ending mistake, Catherine." "No, Admiral. You made the career-ending mistake when you protected an abuser because he shared your blood. I'm just finally doing something about it." Footsteps. A door opening. "This isn't over," Richardson said. "Yes, it is. You just don't know it yet." The door closed. Ivy opened her eyes. Admiral Shaw stood at the foot of her bed, watching her with an expression that mixed concern with something else. Respect, maybe. "How much did you hear?" Shaw asked. "Enough. Richardson's going to fight this. He's got connections at the Pentagon, friends on the Armed Services Committee." "I know." Shaw moved closer. She was in her 60s, silver-haired, with the bearing of someone who'd spent 40 years fighting battles most people never knew existed. "What you did out there, Calloway. I've seen a lot of things in my career. I've never seen anything like that." Ivy tried to sit up. Pain lanced through her ribs. She gasped, fell back. "Easy." Shaw's voice softened. "You've got 3 cracked ribs, a grade 2 MCL sprain, and enough contusions to paint a map. The doctors want you on bed rest for at least a week." "I don't have a week." "You don't have a choice." Ivy's jaw tightened. Richardson's going to try to bury this. He's going to call in favors, apply pressure, make evidence disappear. If I'm not there to testify, the evidence isn't going anywhere. Neither are the witnesses. Shaw pulled a chair close to the bed, sat down. "I've been building this case for 4 years, Calloway. 4 years of watching that man protect his nephew while recruits got destroyed. You think I'm going to let him win now? You don't know him like I do." Shaw's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" Ivy was quiet for a moment. The pain made thinking difficult, but some things couldn't wait. "My father served under Richardson, 20 years ago when Richardson was a captain. There was an incident during a joint operation. Something went wrong. People died." "I know about that operation. Do you know Richardson was responsible? Do you know he gave the order that got 6 SEALs killed, then blamed it on the team leader?" Shaw went still. "The team leader's name was Senior Chief Thomas Webb, Marcus's father. Richardson destroyed his career to save his own, and Thomas Webb ate his service pistol 6 months later." My God. Marcus was 12 years old. Richardson took him in after that, raised him like a son, shaped him into exactly what he became. Ivy's voice was flat, empty. "You're not fighting corruption, Admiral. You're fighting a family built on lies, protecting each other for generations." Shaw absorbed this. Her face was unreadable, but her hands had tightened on the arms of her chair. "How do you know all this?" "Because my father was there. He was one of the 6 SEALs who died that day." Ivy met Shaw's eyes. "Richardson killed my father, then spent 20 years pretending to honor his memory. Every medal, every commendation, every speech about sacrifice and duty, all of it was theater to hide what he'd done. Why didn't your father report him?" "He tried. The report was classified, buried, and my father was told to forget it ever happened. He spent the rest of his career being punished for trying to tell the truth." Shaw stood, walked to the window. When she spoke, her voice was different, harder. "This changes everything. I know. If Richardson finds out what you know, he'll try to silence me. I know that too." Shaw turned back. "Why didn't you tell me this before?" "Because I needed to be inside. I needed to see for myself whether Marcus was a monster by choice or by creation. I needed to understand what I was fighting." "And now you understand?" Ivy thought about the training circle, about Webb's face when he realized who she was, about the knife coming at her back. "He's both," she said. "He's a victim who became a predator. But that doesn't make him less dangerous. It makes him more." The door opened. Drake entered, his expression tight with controlled anger. "We have a problem." Shaw straightened. "What kind of problem?" Richardson just made 3 phone calls. Pentagon Armed Services Committee and a federal judge who owes him favors. He's trying to get a gag order on the investigation. On what grounds? National security. claims the undercover operation compromised classified training protocols. That's absurd. Absurd doesn't matter. If that judge signs the order, all our evidence gets sealed. No trial, no testimony. Everything disappears into classification hell. Ivy pushed herself up despite the pain. When Richardson's filing the motion in 2 hours, hearings tomorrow morning. Then we need to move faster. You need to rest. I need to finish this. Ivy swung her legs off the bed. The room spun. She grabbed the rail, steadied herself. Where's the evidence, the video files? Drake and Shaw exchanged looks. Secure server at NCIS headquarters, Shaw said. Multiple backups. Richardson can't touch them. He doesn't need to touch them. He just needs to make them inadmissible. Ivy found her balance. We need testimony. Not just mine. Everyone Webb ever hurt. Every recruit who got destroyed. Every witness who was told to stay quiet. That could take months to compile. We have hours. Ivy looked at Drake. The guy who got hospitalized last year. Ruptured spleen. Rodriguez told me about him. What's his name? Drake's jaw worked. Sergeant First Class Daniel Reeves. He's been medically discharged, living in San Diego. Can you find him? I can find anyone. Then find him. Find everyone. Every recruit who's been hurt in the last 5 years. Every instructor who saw something and was told to keep quiet. Everyone who's been waiting for someone to finally listen. Ivy, my father spent his whole life trying to tell the truth and being punished for it. He died with that truth still locked inside him. Her voice cracked. She steadied it. I'm not going to let that happen again. Not to me. Not to anyone. Drake studied her for a long moment. Something shifted in his expression. The worried mentor giving way to the legendary operator who'd spent 30 years doing the impossible. I'll need support, he said. Resources. You have them, Shaw said. Whatever you need, whoever you need. Then give me 4 hours. Drake headed for the door. I'll give you an army. He was gone before either of them could respond. Shaw turned back to Ivy. You should really be in that bed. I should be a lot of things. Ivy found her clothes folded on a chair, started dressing despite the agony in her ribs. But I'm Commander Jack Calloway's daughter, and I don't know how to quit. Your father was stubborn too. Ivy paused. You knew him. I knew of him. Everyone did. The ghost of Team 6. The man who could go anywhere, do anything, and never leave a trace. Shaw's voice softened. He deserved better than what he got. He deserved to live. He deserved to see his daughter grow up. He deserved to know that someone would finally finish what he started. Ivy pulled on her jacket, wincing. Richardson took all of that from him. Now I'm going to take everything from Richardson. This isn't about revenge. No, it's about justice. Ivy met Shaw's eyes, but I'd be lying if I said the revenge part didn't feel good. For the first time, Shaw smiled. Your father used to say something similar. What? He said that justice and revenge are the same thing. The only difference is who's telling the story. Ivy absorbed that, filed it away with all the other pieces of her father she was still discovering. I need access to the investigation files, she said. Everything you have on Webb Richardson, the training program. All of it. That's highly classified. I have clearance. You have clearance for the operation you were assigned to, not for the larger investigation. Admiral. Ivy's voice was quiet but firm. In 6 hours, Richardson is going to try to make all of this disappear. If he succeeds, Webb walks. His other victims never get justice. The system stays broken. And my father died for nothing. Shaw was silent. Give me the files. Let me see what we're really fighting. I promise you whatever's in there, I can handle it. It's not about what you can handle, it's about protocol. Protocol is how Richardson has been protecting his nephew for 5 years. Protocol is how my father's report got buried. Protocol is the weapon people like Richardson use to crush people like us. Ivy stepped closer. You didn't authorize this operation because you believe in protocol. You authorized it because you believe in justice. Trust that now. Shaw studied her for a long moment. Then she reached into her briefcase and pulled out a tablet. Everything's on here. Every complaint, every buried report, every medical record, every piece of evidence we've been collecting for 4 years. Ivy took the tablet. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. What's on that tablet will make you angry. It might make you lose faith in the institution you're trying to protect. I lost faith in institutions a long time ago. That's why I believe in people instead. Shaw nodded slowly. Your father said something like that too. He was smarter than people gave him credit for. He was, and so are you. Shaw headed for the door. I have to go manage Richardson's political assault. Drake's gathering witnesses. You have 4 hours to do whatever you're planning to do. What makes you think I'm planning something? Shaw paused at the door. Because you're Jack Calloway's daughter, and he always had a plan. She left. Ivy stood alone in the medical room, tablet in hand, body screaming with pain she refused to acknowledge. She opened the first file and started reading. 3 hours later, Ivy understood why Admiral Shaw had warned her. The files were worse than she'd imagined. Not just Webb, not just the past 5 years. The pattern went back decades. Richardson had been protecting abusers his entire career. Every base he'd commanded, every program he'd supervised. The same pattern repeated complaints, filed investigations, opened evidence, buried accusers, destroyed. And the victims. God, the victims. 23 recruits in the past 5 years alone had been hospitalized with injuries from training accidents. 7 had been medically discharged. 3 had attempted suicide. 1 had died. Petty Officer 3rd Class Amanda Chen, 22 years old, drowned during a water qualification exercise after being held underwater as motivation. The death was ruled accidental. The instructor responsible was reprimanded and transferred. That instructor was Marcus Webb. The file included Chen's photo. Young, determined, the kind of face that belonged on a recruitment poster. She'd been 19 when she joined the program, the same age Ivy was now. Ivy closed the file, opened another. Sergeant First Class Daniel Reeves, the ruptured spleen case Rodriguez had mentioned. The file included his medical records, his discharge paperwork, and something else, a video file labeled Training Exercise 2023-47. Ivy pressed play. The footage was grainy, clearly from a security camera, rather than official documentation. It showed a training circle much like the one Ivy had fought in. Reeves was in the center, surrounded by Webb, Briggs, and Thornton. The same configuration. The same predators. The beating lasted 11 minutes. Reeves fought back at first. He was good, strong, trained, determined. But 3-on-1 with modified rules was designed to be unwinnable. By the end, he wasn't fighting. He was just trying to survive. The video cut off before medical intervention, but the records told the rest of the story. Emergency surgery. 3 weeks in the ICU. Medical discharge with a 20% disability rating. Reeves's official complaint was filed 2 weeks after his discharge. It was dismissed within 48 hours. Insufficient evidence. The same phrase appeared in every dismissed complaint. Insufficient evidence. But now there was evidence. Now there were 12 camera angles and 200 witnesses and an undercover operation authorized by the Secretary of the Navy. Now there was Ivy. Her phone buzzed. Drake. I found Reeves. He's willing to talk. Where? He's coming to the base. Should be here in about an hour. Who else? I've reached out to 14 former recruits. 9 have agreed to give statements. The others are scared they've been threatened before when they tried to speak up. Threatened by who? Richardson's office. Informal conversations suggesting that speaking up would have consequences for their careers, their families. That's witness intimidation. Welcome to the machine. Drake's voice was grim. But I think the tide is turning. These people have been waiting for years for someone to finally take this seriously. They just needed to know they wouldn't be standing alone. They're not alone. Not anymore. There's something else you should know. What? Richardson made another call. This one to Webb's detention facility. Ivy's blood went cold. What kind of call? I don't know yet. But whatever he's planning it fast. Can you get more information? I'm working on it. In the meantime, watch your back. Richardson knows who you are now. He knows what you know. Let him know. Ivy. My father spent 20 years being afraid of what Richardson could do to him. Look how that ended. I'm not going to live in fear of a man who needs to destroy teenage girls to feel powerful. Fear keeps you alive. No. Preparation keeps you alive. Fear just makes you hesitate. She paused. Find out what Richardson's planning. I'll handle everything else. She hung up before Drake could argue. The door opened. Ivy turned, expecting Shaw, expecting a doctor, expecting anyone, except the person who actually walked in. Specialist Dana Thornton. She was in a wheelchair pushed by a military police escort. Her leg was immobilized in a brace. Her face was pale drawn. But her eyes were different than they'd been on the training field. The hardness was gone. Something else had replaced it. I need to talk to you, Thornton said. Ivy didn't move. I don't think we have anything to talk about. I know things. Thornton's voice cracked. Things that could help you. Things that could destroy Richardson. Why would you help me? You tried to kill me this morning. I tried to survive this morning. There's a difference. Is there? Thornton looked at the MP. Can you give us a minute? The MP glanced at Ivy. She nodded. When they were alone, Thornton leaned forward in her wheelchair. Her eyes were wet. I know what you think of me. You think I'm just like them. Another predator who chose to hurt people. Aren't you? I'm what they made me. Thornton's voice was barely a whisper. When I came through this program 6 years ago, I was just like you. Young, determined, stupid enough to think that skill and dedication were enough. What happened? Webb happened. Richardson happened. The same thing that happened to you happened to me, except nobody came to save me. Nobody blew a whistle or arrested anyone. I just had to survive it alone. So you became one of them. I became what I had to become to stay alive. A tear ran down Thornton's cheek. You don't understand what it's like. The pressure to prove you're one of them. The fear of what happens if you're not. I told myself I was just playing a role, that I wasn't really hurting anyone. But I was. I know I was. Ivy's jaw tightened. You held Amanda Chen underwater. Thornton flinched like she'd been slapped. You think I don't know that name? You think I don't see her face every time I close my eyes? Her voice broke completely. I've spent 2 years trying to drink away what I did to that girl. 2 years of nightmares and therapy and medication that barely keeps me functional. She's dead because of you. She's dead because of a system that turns people into monsters and calls it training. Thornton met Ivy's eyes. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm asking for a chance to make it right, or at least to make it mean something. How? Thornton reached into her pocket, pulled out a USB drive. Richardson keeps files, insurance files, every piece of blackmail he's ever collected on anyone who might threaten him, every secret, every weakness, every skeleton in every closet. Ivy stared at the drive. How did you get this? Webb gave it to me 2 years ago. He said it was protection. If anything ever happened to him, I should use it to protect myself. Thornton laughed bitterly. Protection. Like anything could protect us from what we'd become. What's on it? Everything. Every cover-up Richardson's ever orchestrated. Every officer he's blackmailed. Every crime he's buried. Thornton held out the drive. It's yours. Use it to destroy him. Ivy didn't take it. What do you want in return? I want to testify. Against Webb. Against Richardson. Against all of it. Thornton's voice steadied. I want to tell the truth about what I did, and face whatever consequences come. I want to stop being the monster they made me. You'll go to prison. I know. You'll lose everything. Your career, your freedom, your identity. I lost all of that a long time ago. I just didn't know it. Thornton pressed the drive into Ivy's hand. Please, let me help. Let me be something other than what they made me, even if it's only for a little while. Ivy looked at the drive, then at Thornton. This was the enemy. The woman who'd kicked her in the ribs, who'd helped hold down Amanda Chen, who'd chosen the predator's path again and again. But she was also something else, a victim who'd become a perpetrator. A survivor who'd lost herself trying to survive. Just like Webb. Just like everyone caught in Richardson's orbit. I can't promise you anything, Ivy said finally. I can't promise forgiveness or redemption or a lighter sentence. I'm not asking for promises. What are you asking for? A chance. Thornton's eyes were desperate, hopeful, terrified all at once. Just a chance to be something other than what I've been. Even if it costs me everything. Ivy thought about her father, about all the years he'd spent trying to do the right thing and being punished for it. About the loneliness of being the only one willing to speak the truth. Thornton had spent 6 years on the other side of that equation. 6 years protecting the liars, destroying the truth-tellers, becoming everything Ivy had been taught to fight. But she was here now, ready to burn down her own life to expose the truth. That had to count for something. Admiral Shaw is leading the investigation, Ivy said. Tell her everything you told me. Show her everything on that drive. Hold nothing back. And if I do, then maybe you get to be something other than a monster. Ivy stepped closer. But understand this, if you're playing me, if this is some trick Richardson cooked up, I will destroy you. Not the system, not the courts. Me, personally. Clear. Thornton nodded. Clear. Ivy called for the MP. As Thornton was wheeled away, she paused at the door. Calloway. Ivy turned. Your father. He really was a hero, wasn't he? He was a man who tried to tell the truth in a world that punished him for it. I don't know if that makes him a hero, but it makes him mine. Thornton nodded slowly. I hope I can be half as brave. You're about to find out. The door closed. Ivy looked at the USB drive in her hand. Richardson's entire house of cards compressed into a few gigabytes of data. This changed everything. She pulled out her phone and called Shaw. Admiral, you're going to want to see what just landed in my lap. An hour later, the conference room at NCIS headquarters was controlled chaos. Shaw Drake. 3 NCIS investigators, 2 JAG prosecutors and a technical team were gathered around a central monitor. On the screen, files cascaded in an endless stream. "This is decades of blackmail material," the lead investigator said. "Financial records, personal correspondence, medical information. Richardson has dirt on at least 40 senior officers, including 2 members of the Armed Services Committee," one of the prosecutors added. "That explains how he's been able to block investigations for so long." "Can we use this?" Shaw asked. "The chain of custody is complicated. Thornton obtained it from Webb, who obtained it from Richardson through unknown means. Defense counsel will argue it's inadmissible. But the information itself can guide secondary investigations. If we know where to look, we can find independent evidence." Drake stood apart from the group, watching Ivy. She looked exhausted, bruised, running on adrenaline and determination, just like her father. "There's something else," the tech specialist said. "Hidden partition on the drive, encrypted. We're working on cracking it." "How long?" "Could be hours, could be days." "Richardson's motion for a gag order is being heard tomorrow morning," Shaw said. "We need that partition cracked before then." "We're doing everything we can." Ivy stepped forward. "What's the file size?" The tech looked at his screen. "About 30 gigabytes. Large for encrypted text. Could be video files." "Chen." Everyone turned. Amanda Chen drowned 2 years ago in a training exercise. Richardson personally supervised the investigation that ruled it accidental. Ivy's voice was calm. "If he's keeping insurance files, he'd keep records of every death he's covered up. That partition might contain evidence of murder." Shaw's face went pale. "If you're right, then Richardson isn't just facing conspiracy charges, he's facing homicide." The room went silent. "Crack that encryption," Shaw ordered. "Whatever it takes. I don't care if you have to call in the NSA." "Ma'am, that's not a suggestion." Ivy's phone buzzed. She stepped away from the group. "Hello?" "Ivy." Drake's voice, even though Drake was standing 10 feet away. She looked at him. He wasn't on his phone. "Who is this?" "Someone who knew your father. Someone who wants to help." "Help how?" "Richardson knows what's coming. He's making moves you can't see. I can show you, but only in person." "Where?" "The Memorial Wall, Building 7. 20 minutes. Come alone." The line went dead. Ivy stared at her phone. "Everything okay?" Drake asked. "Fine." She pocketed the phone. "I need some air. Be back in 30. "Ivy." 30 minutes. I promise." She left before he could stop her. Building 7 was dark and empty, the training activities suspended pending investigation. Ivy moved through the shadows, every sense alert. The memorial wall stood at the far end of the building, names etched in bronze, operators who'd died in service. Her father's name was there. 3rd row 7th from the left. Commander Jack Calloway, Operation Ghost Wind, 2019. He always hated that name. Ivy spun. A man emerged from the darkness. Mid-60s. Gray hair. Built like he'd spent his life in special operations. His face was weathered, scarred, familiar, in a way she couldn't place. "Ghost Wind," the man continued. "The PR people loved it. Jack thought it was ridiculous. Said he'd rather be remembered as a father than a code name." "Who are you?" "My name is Thomas Reed. I was your father's commanding officer for 12 years. Ivy's eyes widened. "Reed. I remember that name. My father talked about you." "I imagine he did. We went through hell together more times than either of us could count." Reed moved closer. I've been watching you, Ivy. Ever since you arrived at this facility, I've been waiting for the right moment to make contact. Why? Because I have something you need. Something that will destroy Richardson once and for all. What? Reed reached into his jacket, pulled out a weathered envelope. Your father wrote this 3 days before he died. He gave it to me with instructions to deliver it only if someone finally had the courage to take Richardson down. Ivy's hands trembled as she took the envelope, her father's handwriting on the front. Her name. He knew, she whispered. He knew Richardson was going to kill him. He knew Richardson would eventually find a way. He'd been gathering evidence for years, sending it to people he trusted, building a case that couldn't be buried. Reed's voice was heavy. That letter contains the location of every piece of evidence he hid. Server locations, safe deposit boxes, dead drops, everything Richardson spent 20 years trying to find and destroy. Ivy clutched the envelope to her chest. Why didn't you come forward sooner? Because coming forward would have gotten me killed. Richardson has eyes everywhere, ears everywhere. The only way to stay alive was to stay invisible. Reed met her eyes. But you changed everything today. You stood in that circle and showed the world what you're made of. You're not invisible anymore, and that means neither am I. Richardson is going to destroy this. All of it. His motion tomorrow. Won't matter. Not with what's in that letter. Your father didn't just collect evidence. He created a dead man's switch. If Richardson succeeds in burying this investigation, every major news outlet in the country will receive simultaneous packages containing everything Jack gathered. Ivy stared at him. My father planned this, all of it. He planned for every contingency. He knew he might not live to see Richardson fall, so he made sure his death would be the beginning of Richardson's end, not the end of the investigation. Tears streamed down Ivy's face. He never told me any of this. He was protecting you. As long as you didn't know Richardson had no reason to target you. But now, Reed gestured toward the memorial wall. Now you're carrying the torch he lit 20 years ago. The question is, are you ready to burn it all down? Ivy looked at the envelope in her hands. Her father's final gift. His last act of defiance against a system that had tried to silence him. Yes, she said. I'm ready. Then open it, and let's finish what your father started. Ivy tore open the envelope with trembling fingers. Inside was a letter. 3 pages of her father's careful handwriting. And coordinates, dates, names. Everything she needed to destroy Richardson's empire forever. She started reading, and the ground shifted beneath her feet. The first line of her father's letter hit Ivy like a bullet to the chest. My darling Ivy, if you're reading this, I'm dead. And if you're reading this, it means you've become exactly what I always knew you would be, braver than I ever was. Her vision blurred. She blinked hard, forced herself to continue. I've spent 20 years gathering evidence against Admiral William Richardson. 20 years of documenting his crimes, his cover-ups, his systematic destruction of anyone who threatened his power. What I'm about to tell you will change everything you think you know about my death, about your life, about the war that's been raging in the shadows since before you were born. Reed stood silent, watching her read. On March 17, 2019, I received intelligence that Richardson was planning to eliminate me. Not through combat, through betrayal. He'd arranged for my extraction route to be leaked to enemy forces. My team was walking into an ambush, and Richardson was the one who set it. Ivy's hands shook so violently she almost dropped the letter. I could have run, could have disappeared, could have saved myself and let my team die, but I didn't. I went anyway. Because if I ran, Richardson would have won. He would have buried the truth forever, and every person he'd ever destroyed would have died for nothing. He knew, Ivy whispered. He went to his death knowing Richardson had betrayed him. Your father was the bravest man I ever served with, Reed said quietly. He made a choice that night. He chose to die fighting, rather than live hiding. Ivy forced herself to keep reading. I made arrangements before that mission. Everything I gathered, every document, every recording, every piece of evidence I distributed to people I trust. Thomas Reed has the master list. Vincent Drake has copies of the most critical files. And you, my darling girl, you have something Richardson never expected. You have me, my training, my knowledge, my fire. I know Drake has been preparing you. I know you've become something extraordinary. I asked him to make you ready not because I wanted you to fight my battles, but because I knew Richardson would eventually come for you too. You're my daughter. As long as you live, you're a threat to everything he's built. But you're also his destruction. You're the weapon he never saw coming. The letter continued for 2 more pages. Locations, names, codes for encrypted servers, details of every crime Richardson had committed over 30 years of military service. By the time Ivy finished, her face was wet with tears. She didn't remember crying. There's one more thing, Reed said. Something your father didn't put in the letter because he couldn't be certain it was true. What? Richardson didn't just arrange your father's death. He was there, in the field. He personally confirmed the kill. Ivy went still. What are you saying? I'm saying Richardson pulled the trigger himself. Your father didn't die in an ambush. He was executed by the man who spent 20 years pretending to honor his memory. The world tilted. Ivy reached for the wall, steadied herself. How do you know this? Because I was there. Reed's voice cracked. I was captured during the same operation. They held me for 3 weeks before I escaped. Richardson didn't know I saw what he did. He still doesn't know. You saw him kill my father. I saw everything. Reed met her eyes. And I've spent 6 years waiting for someone strong enough to help me tell the truth. Ivy's grief transformed. The sorrow compressed, hardened, became something else entirely. Rage. Pure, cold, focused rage. Where is Richardson now? At his office on base. He's been making calls all night trying to shut down the investigation. Then that's where I'm going. Ivy, wait. You can't just watch me. She started walking. Reed caught her arm. Think about this. If you confront him directly, he'll have you arrested. He'll claim you attacked him. He'll use it to discredit everything you've accomplished. I don't care. Your father cared. He spent 20 years building a case instead of just putting a bullet in Richardson's head. He did that because he knew that killing one man doesn't change the system. Only the truth changes the system. Ivy stopped. Her body vibrated with the need to act, to move, to destroy. But Reed was right. Her father had been right. What do you suggest? The hearing tomorrow. Richardson's motion for a gag order. That's where this ends. Not in some dark office where nobody can see. In a courtroom with witnesses, with cameras, with the entire chain of command watching. And if he wins the motion, he won't. Not with what you have now. Reed gestured to the letter. Your father's testimony from beyond the grave. Thornton's evidence. The encrypted files on that drive. And my eyewitness account of his murder. You'll testify. I'll do more than testify. I'll burn Richardson's world to the ground and salt the earth so nothing grows there again. Ivy looked at the letter in her hand. 3 pages that contained everything her father had lived and died for. Okay, she said. We do it your way. We do it in court. Smart. But Reed. She met his eyes. If the court fails, if Richardson finds some way to slither out of this, I'm not waiting another 20 years for justice. Neither am I, They walked out of Building 7 together, two soldiers carrying the weight of secrets that had waited far too long to be told. Drake was waiting outside, his face tight with barely controlled anger. "You were supposed to be gone 30 minutes. It's been 2 hours. I've been going out of my mind." He stopped when he saw Reed. "Thomas." "Hello, Vincent." "I thought you were dead. Richardson told everyone you died in captivity." "Richardson tells a lot of lies. That's what we're here to discuss." Drake looked between Reed and Ivy. "What's going on?" Ivy handed him the letter. "Read this." Drake read. His face went through every emotion Ivy had felt. Shock, grief, rage, and finally terrible understanding. "Jack knew," he said. "He walked into that ambush knowing Richardson had betrayed him." "He did it to protect us," Ivy said. "To protect me. He knew if he ran, Richardson would hunt him forever. Hunt everyone he loved. So he made a choice." "My God," Drake's voice broke. "I trained you for 5 years. I thought I was preparing you for some abstract enemy, some future threat. But you weren't training to fight strangers. You were training to destroy the man who murdered your father." "I was training for both. And now it's time to finish what Dad started." Drake handed the letter back. His jaw was set, his eyes hard. "Tell me what you need." "The hearing is at Oro 900 tomorrow. We have 10 hours to compile everything, the video evidence, Thornton's files, the decrypted partition from that drive, Reed's testimony, and whatever else we can find." "What about Richardson? What about him?" "He's not going to sit still while we build a case. He's got resources, connections, men who'll do whatever he asks. Then we need to move faster than he can react." Ivy's phone rang. "Shaw." "Where the hell are you? We've got a problem." "What kind of problem?" "Webb's gone." Ivy's blood went cold. "What do you mean, gone?" "Richardson got to the detention facility. Some kind of administrative transfer order. By the time we realized what was happening, Webb was already off base. He's loose. He's in the wind, and Richardson's claiming it was a legitimate transfer that got confused in the system. That's impossible. Webb tried to murder me in front of 200 witnesses." "I know, but Richardson's buying time. Every hour Webb stays missing is another hour Richardson can manipulate the situation." Ivy looked at Drake. At Reed. Both men heard the conversation. "I'll find him," Drake said. "How? I've been tracking people for 30 years. Webb's not that smart. He'll make a mistake." "Richardson won't let him make mistakes. He'll have Webb hidden somewhere secure." Reed stepped forward. "I know how Richardson thinks. I know his safe houses, his bolt holes, his emergency protocols. If Webb's being hidden, I can narrow down the locations." "Do it," Ivy said into the phone. "Admiral Shaw, we're coming in. All of us. And we're bringing everything." "Everything." My father's testimony. Reed's eyewitness account. Evidence that Richardson murdered Commander Jack Calloway in cold blood. Silence on the line. "Ivy, are you certain? I'm holding the proof in my hand." "Then get here, now, before Richardson realizes how badly he's miscalculated." Ivy hung up. "Let's go," she said. "We've got a murderer to catch." The next 4 hours were controlled chaos. At NCIS headquarters, the investigative team worked through the night, cross-referencing evidence, building timelines, preparing testimony. Thornton provided detailed accounts of every abuse she'd witnessed and participated in. Her confession was damning not just for Webb and Richardson, but for herself. She held nothing back. Reed gave a formal statement about Richardson's execution of Jack Calloway. His account was detailed, specific, and corroborated by forensic evidence that had been overlooked in the original investigation. The encrypted partition on Thornton's drive finally cracked at 3:17 a.m. Inside were videos, Not training exercises. Interrogations. Richardson had been running an illegal black site on American soil. Detainees. Enhanced interrogation. Deaths that were never reported. And one video in particular, Commander Jack Calloway, bound to a chair, Richardson, standing over him with a pistol. "Any last words, Commander?" Jack's voice was steady, defiant. Even facing death, he didn't break. "You think this ends with me? You're wrong. Everything I know is already out there. Every crime, every cover-up, every life you've destroyed. Killing me doesn't save you. It just proves I was right about you all along." Richardson laughed. "Nobody will ever know. Nobody will ever care. Your daughter will grow up thinking her father died a hero, never knowing he died a fool. My daughter will grow up knowing the truth. I made sure of it." The pistol raised. The shot fired. The video ended. Ivy watched it 3 times. Each time she felt something inside her crystallize. The grief didn't disappear. It hardened. Became armor. Became weapon. "We have him," Shaw said. "This is irrefutable. Richardson is finished." "Not yet," Drake said. "He's still got Webb. He's still got allies. He's still dangerous." "We need to find Webb before the hearing," Ivy said. "Richardson will use him as leverage, as a threat, as a distraction." "Reed and I have narrowed it down to 3 possible locations," Drake said. "An abandoned facility near the border, a private property owned by a shell company, and a yacht registered to Richardson's wife." "The yacht," Ivy said immediately. "Why?" "Because it's the only option that lets Richardson move Webb out of the country if things go wrong. He's not hiding. He's preparing to run." Drake considered this. "That tracks. The yacht is docked at Coronado Cays. Private berth. Minimal security." "Then that's where I'm going." "Ivy, no. Let us handle Webb. You need to be at that hearing." "The hearing is in 5 hours. I can be there and back in 2. "It's too dangerous. Richardson knows you're the key to all of this. If he gets his hands on you, then he wins, I know." Ivy met Drake's eyes. "But Webb is dangerous. Not because of what he can do, because of what he knows. Richardson will either kill him to keep him quiet, or use him as a bargaining chip. Either way, we need Webb alive and talking." "I'll go with you," Reed said. "No, I need you at the hearing. You're the eyewitness. You're the proof that Richardson committed murder. If something happens to me, you have to be there to tell the truth." "Ivy, this isn't negotiable." She turned to Drake. "Both of you. At the hearing. No matter what." Drake's jaw worked. "Your father asked me to protect you." "My father asked you to make me ready." "You did. Now let me do what I was trained for." The 2 men exchanged looks. Years of history passed between them in that glance. Wars fought together. Brothers buried together. And now this. "Take backup," Drake said finally. "At least 2 operators. People I trust." "Fine. And if Webb isn't there, if it's a trap, then I'll improvise." Ivy grabbed her jacket. "It's what I do." She was at the door when Shaw called out. "Calloway." Ivy turned. "Your father would be proud, but more than that, he'd be terrified. He spent 20 years trying to keep you away from this fight, and here you are walking straight into it. He spent 20 years fighting alone because nobody would stand with him. That's not going to happen anymore." "What do you mean?" Ivy gestured around the room at the investigators, the prosecutors, the evidence scattered across every surface. "He had to fight in shadows because the light would have destroyed him. But we're not in shadows anymore. We're bringing the whole thing into the light, and Richardson can't hide from what everyone can see." She left before anyone could argue. The Coronado Cays Marina was quiet at 4:30 in the morning. Ivy moved through the darkness with two operators Drake had handpicked veterans who'd worked with her father, who'd been waiting years for a chance to strike back at the men who'd betrayed him. The yacht was exactly where intelligence said it would be, a 60-foot luxury vessel named Victory's Crown. Richardson's idea of a joke, probably. "Thermal shows 2 heat signatures below deck," one of the operators murmured. "One stationary, one moving. Webb and a guard, most likely. I'm going in. Cover the exits. Calloway, our orders are to support, not watch you. Your orders are to make sure Webb doesn't escape. I'll handle what's inside." She didn't wait for acknowledgement. Didn't need it. The deck was slippery with morning dew. Ivy moved silently, every step calculated. Her ribs screamed in protest. The injuries from yesterday's fight hadn't magically healed. But pain was just information. Pain could be managed. The main hatch was unlocked, careless, or deliberate. Ivy descended into the yacht's interior. The narrow corridor was dark, lit only by emergency strips along the floor. She moved by feel as much as sight, her senses hyper-alert. A door at the end of the corridor. Light seeping from underneath. She paused. Listened. Voices. 2 of them. "Can't keep me here forever. The whole base is looking for me." Webb. Panicked. "Good. Nobody's looking for you. Richardson's made sure of that." A voice Ivy didn't recognize. The guard. "You don't understand. That girl Calloway, she's not normal. She took down all 3 of us in seconds. She's not just some recruit. She's a 19-year-old kid. Richardson has handled worse. Richardson hasn't handled her father, and she's exactly like him." Ivy smiled grimly. Time to prove Webb right. She kicked the door open. The guard reacted fast, military training, probably former spec ops. He had a weapon up and aimed before the door finished swinging. But Ivy was faster. Her strike hit his wrist at the nerve cluster. The gun dropped. Her follow-up caught him in the throat, not hard enough to crush, just hard enough to paralyze. He went down gasping. Webb scrambled backward, hands raised. Wait, don't! Don't what?" Ivy stepped over the guard's writhing body. "Don't hurt you like you tried to hurt me." "That wasn't I was following orders. Richardson made me. Richardson made you try to stab me in the back with a training knife. Richardson made you beat Daniel Reeves until his spleen ruptured. Richardson made you hold Amanda Chen underwater until she drowned." Webb's face went white. "How do you know about Chen?" "I know everything." Ivy moved closer, each step deliberate, each word precise. "I know about every recruit you've destroyed, every life you've ruined, every death you've caused, and I know Richardson is planning to kill you to keep you quiet." "That's not true. He's protecting me. He's always protected me. He protected you because you were useful, because your brutality made his program work. But you're not useful anymore, Webb. You're a liability, and Richardson doesn't keep liabilities alive. You're lying." "Am I?" Ivy pulled out her phone, played the video of Richardson executing her father. "This is what Richardson does to people who become problems. You think he'll treat you any different?" Webb watched the video. His face cycled through emotions, disbelief, horror, recognition. That's Commander Calloway, your father. Richardson murdered him, personally, and he recorded it because he's arrogant enough to think he'll never face consequences." Ivy put the phone away. "But he's wrong. Tomorrow morning, this video goes before a military tribunal. Along with every piece of evidence my father spent 20 years collecting. Along with testimony from everyone you've ever hurt. Along with you. Me. You're going to testify, Webb. You're going to tell the truth about everything Richardson ordered you to do, every recruit you abused, every death you covered up, everything. And if I don't, then you go down alone, Richardson walks, and you spend the rest of your life in military prison knowing you protected the man who used you as a weapon and threw you away when you broke. Webb's eyes darted toward the door, toward escape. Don't, Ivy said quietly. You won't make it 3 steps. You can't force me to testify. I don't have to force you. I just have to show you the truth. Ivy crouched in front of him. Richardson killed the man who raised you. Webb went still. What? Thomas Webb, your father, senior chief. Richardson blamed him for an operation that Richardson himself sabotaged. Your father's career was destroyed. 6 months later, he killed himself. That's not... Richardson said my father was a hero who was treated unfairly by the system. Richardson was the system. He destroyed your father to save himself. Then he took you in and molded you into exactly what he needed, a weapon that didn't ask questions. Webb's breathing had become ragged. His eyes were wet. No. No, he wouldn't. He did. He does. It's what he is. Ivy stood. You've spent your whole life trying to earn the approval of the man who murdered your father. Everything you've done, every person you've hurt was for him. And he never cared about you, not for a single second. Stop. He used you, Webb, just like he used my father, just like he used everyone. And when you stopped being useful, I said stop. Webb lunged, not at Ivy at the fallen guard's weapon. Ivy was faster. Her foot connected with his wrist before his fingers touched metal. She spun, caught him in an arm lock, drove him face first into the deck. I'm trying to save your life, she hissed. Richardson sent you to this yacht because it's the easiest place to make you disappear. One more body in the ocean, one more problem solved. Then let him, Webb gasped. Let him kill me. It's better than living with what I've done. Ivy's grip loosened slightly. You don't get to take the easy way out. You don't get to die and escape the consequences. What do you want from me? I want you to live. I want you to testify. I want you to spend the rest of your life making amends for the people you destroyed. She pulled him up, turned him to face her. That's the only redemption available to you. Take it or don't. But don't you dare give Richardson the satisfaction of dying for him. Webb stared at her. Tears streamed down his face. Why do you care I tried to kill you? Because my father spent 20 years fighting alone. Because he died believing the truth would never come out. Because if I let you die, Richardson wins. She released him. And I am not going to let that man win. Webb sank to his knees. His body shook with sobs. I didn't know, he whispered. About my father. About any of it. Richardson told me. He said my father was betrayed by cowards. He said the Navy destroyed him. He said I had to be strong so the same thing wouldn't happen to me. Richardson lies. It's the only thing he's ever been good at. I spent my whole life trying to make him proud, trying to be the son he saved. And it was all a manipulation. Yeah. Ivy extended her hand. But it doesn't have to end that way. You can still choose who you want to be. Webb looked at her hand, at the woman he'd tried to destroy less than 24 hours ago. Why would you help me after everything I've done? Because someone has to break the cycle. Someone has to choose different. My father chose to die fighting for the truth. I'm choosing to live fighting for it. You can make a choice too. Webb reached up, took her hand, let her pull him to his feet. Okay, he said. I'll testify. I'll tell them everything. Good. Ivy moved toward the door. Because we have a hearing in 3 hours, and we're going to burn Richardson's world to the ground. They emerged from the yacht as dawn broke over the Pacific. The operators Drake had sent were waiting on the dock. Their expressions shifted from tension to relief when they saw Ivy emerge with Webb in tow. "Package secured," Ivy said. "We need transport back to base. Now." "Already arranged. Vehicle's 2 minutes out." Ivy turned back to Webb. He looked broken, shattered. Everything he'd believed about his life had been stripped away in minutes. Good. The truth had that effect. "When we get there," she said, "you're going to talk to the prosecutors. You're going to give them everything, names, dates, orders, all of it. You're going to hold nothing back. And then we walk into that hearing together. You, me, Reed, Thornton, everyone Richardson thought he'd silenced, and we're going to show the world exactly what he is." Webb nodded slowly. "He'll try to stop us. He still has allies, resources. Let him try. My father spent 20 years preparing for this moment. He built a case so solid that even Richardson can't destroy it. All we have to do is deliver it." The vehicle arrived. They loaded in. As they drove toward the base, the sun climbed higher. A new day. A day of reckoning. Ivy pulled out her father's challenge coin, ran her thumb over the worn inscription. Silence is strength. Action is proof. Today, the silence ended. Today, the proof would speak. And Admiral William Richardson would finally face the truth he'd spent 30 years trying to bury. The military tribunal convened at exactly 0900. Ivy stood outside the hearing room, her body still aching from injuries that hadn't had time to heal. Drake flanked her left side, Reed on her right. Behind them, Webb sat in a chair guarded by 2 MPs, his face pale and drawn. Admiral Shaw approached. Her expression was unreadable. "Richardson's inside. He brought lawyers. 3 of them. And he's filed emergency motions to suppress almost every piece of evidence we have." "On what grounds?" Drake asked. "Illegally obtained evidence, compromised chain of custody, coerced testimony." Shaw's jaw tightened. "He's throwing everything at the wall, hoping something sticks." "Will it? The judge advocate is Admiral Chen. He's fair, but he's also cautious. If Richardson can create enough doubt about the evidence—" "He won't," Ivy said. "Not today." Shaw studied her. "You sound certain." "I am." Ivy reached into her pocket, pulled out a sealed envelope. "My father's letter. His testimony from beyond the grave. Richardson can't claim it was coerced because the man who wrote it has been dead for 6 years. A letter isn't admissible without authentication. It's authenticated. Reed can verify my father's handwriting. So can Drake. So can the Navy's own document analysis unit." Ivy met Shaw's eyes. "Richardson thinks he's fighting an investigation. He's wrong. He's fighting a dead man who spent 20 years preparing for exactly this moment." Shaw took the envelope. "You're sure about this? My father gave his life to make sure this day would come. I'm not going to let him down." The doors opened. A clerk appeared. "The tribunal is ready." Ivy straightened her uniform, ignored the pain in her ribs, locked her emotions behind the wall her father had taught her to build. "Let's end this." The hearing room was smaller than Ivy expected. No gallery. No audience. Just the tribunal panel, the legal teams, and the witnesses. Admiral Richardson sat at the defense table, flanked by his attorneys. He looked calm, confident, like a man who'd spent 30 years winning battles and saw no reason this one would be different. Their eyes met across the room. Richardson smiled. Ivy didn't. Admiral Chen called the proceedings to order. This emergency hearing has been convened to address Admiral Richardson's motion to suppress evidence in the ongoing investigation into training irregularities at Naval Special Warfare Command. Admiral Shaw, you may proceed. Shaw stood. Your Honor, before we address the motion, the prosecution wishes to present new evidence that has come to light in the past 12 hours. Richardson's lead attorney was on his feet immediately. Objection. New evidence should be subject to discovery protocols. The defense has had no opportunity to review. This evidence concerns direct threats to witness safety and potential obstruction of justice, Shaw continued. Given the time-sensitive nature of these proceedings, we request immediate consideration. Chen considered. What is the nature of this evidence? Video documentation of Admiral Richardson personally executing Commander Jack Calloway in March 2019. The room went silent. Richardson's smile vanished. That's absurd, his attorney said. Commander Calloway died in combat during a classified operation. Commander Calloway was murdered by Admiral Richardson. We have video footage. We have an eyewitness. We have corroborating documentation that proves Richardson arranged the ambush that led to the commander's death. Chen's face was stone. This is a serious allegation, Admiral Shaw. Yes, Your Honor. It is. Do you have this evidence with you? We do. Chen turned to Richardson. Admiral, do you wish to respond before we proceed? Richardson stood slowly. He'd recovered his composure, but something in his eyes had changed. The confidence was cracking. Your Honor, this is obviously a fabrication designed to derail legitimate legal proceedings. Admiral Shaw has been conducting an unauthorized investigation for years, and now she's manufacturing evidence to... The evidence wasn't manufactured, Shaw said. It was recovered from files maintained by Staff Sergeant Marcus Webb, files that were given to him by Admiral Richardson himself. Webb is a disgraced former instructor facing criminal charges. His testimony is worthless. Staff Sergeant Webb is prepared to testify about everything Admiral Richardson ordered him to do, including the circumstances under which he received these files. Richardson's face darkened. I want a recess. I need to confer with my counsel. Denied, Chen said. You filed an emergency motion demanding immediate action. You're going to get it. He turned to Shaw. Present your evidence. Shaw nodded to a technician. The room's main screen flickered to life. The video began. Ivy watched Richardson's face as the footage played. Watched him see himself standing over her father. Watched him hear his own voice mocking a bound, helpless man. Watched him realize that the secret he'd kept for 6 years was now playing on a screen in front of a military tribunal. Any last words, Commander? Her father's voice filled the room. Steady, defiant, unbroken even facing death. You think this ends with me? You're wrong. Everything I know is already out there. Every crime, every cover-up, every life you've destroyed. Killing me doesn't save you. It just proves I was right about you all along. Richardson on the screen laughed. Nobody will ever know. Nobody will ever care. Your daughter will grow up thinking her father died a hero, never knowing he died a fool. My daughter will grow up knowing the truth. I made sure of it. The shot fired. The video ended. Silence. Chen's face was ashen. The other panel members looked physically ill. Richardson's attorneys sat frozen, their carefully prepared arguments suddenly meaningless. Admiral Richardson. Chen's voice was barely controlled. Do you wish to explain what we just witnessed? Richardson didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on Ivy. She stared back. Didn't flinch. Didn't look away. This is for you, Dad. Admiral Richardson? Chen's voice hardened. I asked you a question. That video is a deep fake, Richardson said finally. Artificial intelligence fabrication. Anyone can create. The video has been authenticated by the Navy's Forensic Analysis Division, Shaw said. Frame-by-frame analysis confirms it's genuine. Audio analysis confirms the voices match known samples of both Admiral Richardson and Commander Calloway. That analysis is flawed. We also have an eyewitness, Shaw gestured toward Reed. Captain Thomas Reed was present during Commander Calloway's execution. He observed the entire incident. Richardson's composure finally shattered. Reed is dead. He died in captivity. I'm very much alive, Admiral. Reed stood. I was captured during the same operation, held for 3 weeks. I escaped, and I've spent 6 years waiting for someone brave enough to help me tell the truth. This is a conspiracy, a coordinated attack on my reputation, your reputation. Ivy was on her feet before she could stop herself. You murdered my father. You looked him in the eye and pulled the trigger. And you've spent 6 years pretending to honor his memory while you built monuments to yourself on his grave. Miss Calloway, please, Chen started. No. Ivy's voice cut through the room. I've been silent my whole life. My father taught me that silence was survival, but he was wrong. Silence is what let men like Richardson thrive. Silence is what protected him while he destroyed everyone who threatened his power. She turned to face Richardson directly. You killed my father. You destroyed Webb's father. You ruined dozens of careers. You covered up at least one murder of a recruit named Amanda Chen. And you did all of it because you believed you were untouchable. I am untouchable. Richardson's voice was quiet, dangerous. You think this hearing changes anything? I have friends at the Pentagon, on the Armed Services Committee. I've been protecting this nation for 30 years. You've been protecting yourself. There's a difference. Your father didn't understand that difference either. Look where it got him. Ivy stepped closer. The MPs tensed, but didn't intervene. My father died with more honor in his last breath than you'll have in your entire life. He could have run. He could have saved himself. But he walked into your trap knowing exactly what you'd planned because he believed the truth was more important than his survival. The truth? Richardson laughed bitterly. The truth is that power matters. Connections matter. Evidence can be suppressed. Witnesses can be discredited. Investigations can be buried. I've done it 100 times. I'll do it again. Not this time. You're 19 years old. You have no idea how the world really works. I know how you work. Ivy pulled out her father's letter. I know every crime you've committed for the past 30 years. I know about the black sites, the illegal interrogations, the cover-ups. My father documented everything. He put it in places you could never find, and he left instructions to release it all if anything happened to me. Richardson's face changed. The arrogance flickered. You're bluffing. Try me. Shaw stepped forward. Your Honor, given the evidence presented, the prosecution moves to dismiss Admiral Richardson's motion to suppress and requests immediate arrest on charges of murder conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and conduct unbecoming an officer. You can't, Richardson's attorney started. The evidence is overwhelming, Chen said. His voice was heavy with something that might have been grief for the institution he'd served, for the illusion of integrity that had just been shattered. Admiral William Richardson, you are hereby remanded into custody pending formal charges. MPs take him. 2 military police officers moved toward Richardson. He didn't resist, didn't fight. Just stood there as they approached, his eyes still locked on Ivy. This isn't over, he said quietly. You think you've won something today. You haven't. You've just started a war you can't finish. My father started this war, Ivy replied. I'm just finishing it. The MPs led Richardson from the room. The door closed behind him. Ivy's legs gave out. Drake caught her before she hit the floor. Easy. Easy, I've got you. Is it over? Her voice was barely a whisper. Is it really over? The hearing is over. Richardson's in custody, but what? Drake helped her to a chair. Richardson was right about one thing. This is going to get bigger. His allies are going to fight back. There will be investigations, hearings, political battles. This isn't an ending. It's a beginning. Ivy closed her eyes. Exhaustion crashed over her like a wave. Then we keep fighting. You need rest first, medical attention, time to recover. Later. Now, Ivy. She opened her eyes. Drake's face was worried, protective. The face of a man who'd spent 5 years training her and was now watching her push herself toward collapse. Okay, she said. But not for long. We still have work to do. Shaw approached. The tribunal has adjourned for now, but we need statements from everyone. Webb, Thornton, Reed, all of you. The formal investigation starts today. What about Richardson's allies? Drake asked. He mentioned connections at the Pentagon. I've been working on that for 4 years. I have allies too. People who've been waiting for someone to finally take Richardson down. Shaw looked at Ivy. Your father wasn't the only one he hurt. There are dozens of officers who've been waiting for this day. Now they can finally speak up. Then let them speak. Webb cleared his throat. Everyone turned. He'd been sitting silently through the entire hearing, watching the destruction of the man who'd raised him, shaped him, used him. I want to testify, he said, formally. Everything I know, everything I did, everything Richardson ordered, all of it. You understand what that means? Shaw asked. You'll be implicating yourself in multiple crimes. You could face years in prison. I know. Webb's voice cracked. But I've spent my whole life being the weapon Richardson aimed at other people. I don't want to be that anymore. Ivy studied him. 24 hours ago, this man had tried to kill her. Now he sat broken, stripped of everything he'd believed, facing the destruction of his entire identity. She should hate him. Part of her did, but another part understood. You were his victim too, she said. That doesn't excuse what you did. But it explains it. I don't want excuses. I want, Webb struggled for words. I want to matter for something other than hurting people. I want what I know to help instead of harm. Is that possible? It's possible. Ivy walked to where he sat. It won't be easy. People won't forgive you overnight. Some might never forgive you. But you can spend the rest of your life trying to earn it. How? By telling the truth, all of it, no matter how much it hurts. Webb nodded slowly. Okay, I can do that. Then do it. Thornton was next. She'd been wheeled in for the hearing but had remained silent, watching everything unfold. Now she raised her hand. I have something to add. Shaw turned. What? Richardson's files. The ones on that USB drive. They're not complete. What do you mean? Webb gave me that drive 2 years ago, but Richardson updates his blackmail collection constantly. There's a master server somewhere with everything, not just the files we found, but current operations, active threats, ongoing cover-ups. Do you know where this server is? No, but I know someone who might. Thornton looked at Reed. You worked with Richardson for years. You know how he operates. If he has a master server, where would he keep it? Reed considered. Richardson's paranoid. He'd never trust military systems too much oversight, and he'd want physical control, not cloud storage. His home, Drake suggested. Too obvious. First place anyone would look. The yacht. We searched it when we found Webb. Nothing there. Ivy thought about everything she'd learned about Richardson. His arrogance, his need for control, his certainty that he was always the smartest person in the room. "His office," she said. Everyone turned. Think about it. Richardson's been running his operation from Naval Special Warfare Command for years. He feels invincible there, protected. He'd keep his most important files somewhere he could access them at any time, somewhere nobody would think to look because it's hiding in plain sight. "His office has been searched," Shaw said. "We didn't find anything." "Did you search the walls? The furniture? Richardson's paranoid, but he's also arrogant. He'd hide the server somewhere clever and then gloat privately about how everyone missed it." Reed nodded slowly. "She's right. Richardson always loved hidden compartments, secret spaces. He used to brag about the modifications he'd made to his quarters when he was stationed overseas." "Can we get authorization to do a more thorough search?" Drake asked. "Richardson's in custody. His office is a crime scene." Shaw pulled out her phone. "I'll have a technical team there within the hour." As Shaw made calls, Ivy felt something shift in her chest. The weight that had been crushing her since her father's death, the weight of secrets and silence and unspoken grief, was finally starting to lift. Not gone. Maybe never completely gone. But lighter. "Calloway." She looked up. Admiral Chen stood nearby. "I served with your father," he said quietly. "Years ago, before Richardson. He was the finest officer I ever knew." "Thank you, sir." "He talked about you, often. He was proud of you even then when you were just a child." Chen's voice was heavy. "I didn't know about Richardson. If I had, you couldn't have known, sir. Richardson made sure of that. Still, I should have looked harder, asked more questions." Chen shook his head. "Your father deserved better from his brothers." "He did. But you're helping now. That matters." Chen nodded. "The formal investigation will take months, maybe years. There will be resistance, political complications. People who benefited from Richardson's protection won't go down without a fight." "I know. You'll be called to testify multiple times. Your life will be examined, your motives questioned, your credibility attacked." "I know that too. And you're still willing to do this?" Ivy thought about her father's letter, about the years he'd spent fighting in silence, about all the people Richardson had destroyed while the system protected him. "My father gave his life for this, Admiral. I can handle some uncomfortable testimony." "You're remarkable. You know that. I'm my father's daughter. That's all." Chen almost smiled. "That's everything." The technical team found the server 3 hours later, hidden inside a hollow section of Richardson's desk, behind a panel that looked like solid wood, but was actually a sophisticated concealment system. Inside was a military-grade hard drive containing over 2 terabytes of data. 30 years of blackmail. Every officer Richardson had compromised, every secret he'd collected, every threat he'd made. And something else, something nobody expected. Recordings. Audio files of Richardson's conversations with allies throughout the military and political establishment. Names, dates, evidence of a network that extended far beyond one corrupt admiral. "This is bigger than we thought," Shaw said, scrolling through the file names. "Richardson wasn't operating alone. He was part of something larger." "What kind of something?" Drake asked. "I don't know yet, but these recordings mention other operations, other cover-ups, other deaths." Shaw looked up. "Richardson might be the head we cut off, but there's still a body out there." "Then we keep cutting," Ivy said. "This could take years, decades." "Then it takes years, decades, however long it takes to tear the whole thing out by the roots." Drake put his hand on Ivy's shoulder. "You don't have to carry this alone." "I know." She covered his hand with hers. "I have you. I have Shaw. I have everyone who's been waiting for this day." She looked around the room at the investigators, the prosecutors, the witnesses who'd finally found their courage. We're not alone anymore. None of us. Webb approached. He'd given his statement hours of testimony that would destroy any remaining support for Richardson and expose operations that had been hidden for years. It's done, he said. Everything I know, every order, every cover-up, every crime. How do you feel? Webb considered the question. Empty, like I've been hollowed out and everything that filled me was poison and now it's gone, but I don't know what's supposed to replace it. That's normal. Is it, when you've built your whole identity around something toxic, removing it feels like dying? Ivy met his eyes. But you're not dying. You're being reborn. The question is who you want to become. I don't know anymore. That's okay. You have time to figure it out. She paused. Prison time probably. But time. Webb almost laughed. You're comforting me with prison time. I'm being honest. You committed crimes. You'll face consequences. But consequences aren't the end. They're the beginning of accountability. You sound like your father. I'll take that as a compliment. It was meant as one. Webb straightened. For what it's worth, Calloway, I'm sorry. Not just for what I did to you. For all of it. Every person I hurt. Sorry doesn't fix it. I know, but it's all I have right now. Then it's a start. The day stretched into evening. Statements were taken. Evidence was catalogued. Plans were made for the long fight ahead. At some point, Ivy found herself alone in an empty hallway, leaning against a wall, too exhausted to move, but too wired to sleep. Reed found her there. You should rest. So everyone keeps telling me. Because everyone's right. Reed leaned against the wall beside her. Your father would be furious if he knew what you've put yourself through. My father spent 20 years destroying himself to fight this battle. He doesn't get to be furious about my choices. Fair point. Reed was quiet for a moment. I need to tell you something. What? When Jack died, I almost gave up. I had the evidence. I had the knowledge. But I was scared. Richardson was too powerful, too protected. I convinced myself that waiting for the right moment was strategic, when really I was just afraid. That's human. That's cowardice. Reed's voice was bitter. 6 years I waited. 6 years while Richardson kept destroying people. 6 years while you grew up without a father. You're here now. Only because you gave me courage. Reed turned to face her. When you walked into that training circle and let them beat you, I wanted to intervene. I wanted to protect you like I should have protected Jack. But you didn't need protecting. You needed to fight your own battle. I needed both. What? I needed to fight my own battle? But I also needed to know someone was ready to step in if I fell. Ivy met his eyes. You were there when it mattered. You stopped Webb's knife. You brought me my father's letter. You testified. I should have done more. Sooner. We all should have done more sooner. My father included. But we can't change the past. We can only change what happens next. Reed nodded slowly. Your father used to say something similar. Did he? He said that guilt about the past is just ego in disguise. It's pretending you could have been better when really you were exactly what you were capable of being at the time. Reed smiled slightly. The only thing that matters is what you choose to be now. Sounds like him? It was him. Reed reached into his pocket, pulled out a small box. He gave me this before that last mission. Told me to give it to you on your 20th birthday. I know it's a few months early, but I think he'd understand. Ivy took the box, opened it. Inside was a ring. Simple. Silver. Engraved with words she recognized. The truth always finds its way home. It belonged to his mother, Reed said. Your grandmother. She gave it to him when he joined the Navy. He said it reminded him why he served not for medals or recognition, but for truth. Ivy slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. Thank you, she whispered. Thank him. When this is over, when Richardson's in prison and the system's been cleaned out and we've finished what Jack started. Reed put his hand on her shoulder. Stand at his grave and tell him what you accomplished. He'll hear you. I promise. Tears streamed down Ivy's face. She didn't try to stop them. I miss him, she said. Every day, every hour. I know. I thought fighting would make it better. I thought justice would fill the hole he left. Does it? No. Ivy wiped her eyes. But it makes the hole mean something. It makes his death mean something. That's the best I can do. That's more than enough. Reed stepped back. Get some rest, Ivy. Tomorrow's going to be another long day. They're all going to be long days for a while. Then pace yourself. Your father's fight took 20 years. Yours might take just as long. I hope not. So do I. Reed started walking away, then paused. One more thing. What? Your father's last words, on that video. He said you'd grow up knowing the truth. He said he made sure of it. Reed's eyes were bright with something that might have been pride, might have been grief. He was right. You grew up knowing, and now the whole world knows too. He left her there in the empty hallway, wearing her grandmother's ring, carrying her father's legacy, standing at the threshold of a future that had finally broken free from the lies of the past. Ivy looked down at the ring on her finger. The truth always finds its way home. It had taken 6 years. It had cost her father his life. It had broken her body and tested her spirit and forced her to become something she'd never planned to be. But the truth had found its way home. And tomorrow she would start building something new on its foundation. 3 years had passed since the day Ivy Calloway walked into a training circle and changed everything. 3 years of trials. 3 years of testimonies. 3 years of watching the empire Richardson had built crumble piece by piece until nothing remained but rubble and regret. The final sentencing hearing was today. Ivy stood outside the military courthouse wearing her dress uniform for the first time since her official commissioning. The medals on her chest caught the morning light commendations she'd never asked for, honors she'd never sought. Drake approached from behind. You ready? I've been ready for 3 years. That's not what I asked. Ivy turned to face him. He'd aged in the years since this began. More gray in his hair, deeper lines around his eyes. But his gaze was still sharp, still protective, still carrying the weight of promises he'd made to a dead friend. I'm ready to watch it end, she said. Is that the same thing? Close enough. They walked toward the courthouse together. The gallery was packed. Media from every major outlet. Military brass from across the services. Politicians who'd spent years pretending they didn't know what Richardson was doing, now desperate to be seen on the right side of history. And the survivors. 23 former recruits who'd been destroyed by Richardson's program. 7 who'd been medically discharged. 2 who'd attempted suicide and lived to tell about it. The families of Amanda Chen, and 3 other recruits who hadn't survived. They filled an entire section of the gallery, their faces a map of suffering that stretched back decades. Ivy took her seat at the prosecution table. Shaw sat beside her, Reed and Drake in the row behind. The door opened. Richardson entered. 3 years of incarceration had changed him. The arrogance was still there, buried deep, but it fought against something else now. Defeat. the slow recognition that the world he'd controlled had finally slipped beyond his reach. He saw Ivy. Their eyes met. She didn't look away. Neither did he. The judge entered. Everyone rose. This court is now in session. The matter of United States versus Admiral William Richardson. The defendant has been found guilty on 47 counts, including murder, conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and conduct unbecoming an officer. We are here today for sentencing. Richardson's attorney stood. Your Honor, the defense wishes to present mitigating circumstances before sentencing. Proceed. Admiral Richardson has served this nation for 34 years. His contributions to national security. Stop. When everyone turned, Richardson had spoken. Admiral Richardson, you'll have an opportunity to address the court. I want to speak now. Richardson's voice was quiet, controlled. I want to address her. He was looking at Ivy. The judge hesitated. This is highly irregular. Please, Your Honor. After a long moment, the judge nodded. Briefly, Admiral. Richardson stood. He'd been sitting throughout his trial, diminished by the process of justice being applied to a man who'd spent his life believing he was above it. But now he rose to his full height, and something of the old command returned. Miss Calloway. Ivy didn't respond. I've had 3 years to think about what you did. 3 years to understand how a 19-year-old girl dismantled everything I built. He paused. I underestimated you. I underestimated your father. That was my mistake. Yes, it was. You want to know if I regret it? What I did? The people I hurt? No. Richardson blinked. No. I don't care if you regret it. Regret doesn't bring back the dead. Regret doesn't heal the broken. Regret is just another form of self-interest, feeling bad about yourself instead of doing something for others. Then why are you here? To watch it end. To be here when the system you spent 30 years corrupting finally holds you accountable. Ivy stood. And to tell you something you need to hear. What? My father forgave you. The courtroom went silent. Richardson's face shifted. Confusion. Disbelief. In his letter, the one he wrote before you murdered him, he said he forgave you. Not because you deserved it, because he didn't want to die with hatred in his heart. I'm not my father. Ivy's voice was ice. I don't forgive you. I don't hate you either. You're not important enough to hate. You're just a small man who did terrible things because he was too afraid to be good. Richardson's composure cracked. For a moment, the mask fell, and what was underneath was ugly and sad and desperately, pathetically human. I was trying to protect the mission, he said. Everything I did was to protect. You were trying to protect yourself. Every life you destroyed, every career you ruined, every recruit you broke, it was all about you, your power, your control, your fear of being exposed as the fraud you always were. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. Ivy sat back down. I'm done talking to you. The court can do whatever it wants now. Richardson opened his mouth to respond, but no words came. He sank back into his chair, diminished in a way that had nothing to do with physical posture. The judge cleared his throat. Thank you, Miss Calloway. Admiral Richardson, do you have anything further to say before sentencing? Richardson shook his head. Very well. Admiral William Richardson, you have been found guilty of crimes that shame the uniform you once wore and betray every principle our military is supposed to represent. Your actions resulted in the deaths of multiple service members, including Commander Jack Calloway, Petty Officer Amanda Chen, and at least 4 others whose names may never be known. The judge's voice hardened. You abused your position to protect predators and destroy whistleblowers. You ran illegal operations on American soil. You maintained blackmail files on dozens of officers to ensure their silence and cooperation. And when finally confronted with the consequences of your actions, you attempted to flee and obstruct justice at every turn. Richardson sat motionless. It is the judgment of this court that you be sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. You will be stripped of all rank honors and benefits. Your name will be removed from every memorial, every commendation, every record of service. The judge paused. You will spend the rest of your life being exactly what you always feared, becoming nothing. The gavel fell. Richardson didn't react, didn't move, didn't speak. MPs approached to escort him out. As he passed Ivy's table, he stopped. Your father was the best of us, he said quietly. I destroyed him because I couldn't stand that he was everything I wasn't. I know. I hope that haunts me. It will. They led him away. The courtroom erupted into noise, reporters shouting questions, survivors crying, lawyers gathering their papers. But Ivy sat still, watching the door through which Richardson had disappeared. Drake's hand landed on her shoulder. It's over. No, Ivy stood. It's just beginning. The reception was held at the Naval Special Warfare Command Memorial, the same place where Ivy had met Reed 3 years ago, the same place where her father's name was carved in bronze, alongside hundreds of others who'd given everything. The survivors gathered there not to celebrate Richardson's imprisonment, but to honor those who hadn't lived to see this day. Amanda Chen's parents stood near the front, holding a photograph of their daughter. Next to them, the family of Petty Officer 3rd Class David Ortega, who'd died during a training accident 7 years ago. And others. So many others. Ivy moved through the crowd, speaking to each family, listening to stories of children and siblings and friends who'd been stolen by a system that was supposed to protect them. Thank you, Amanda's mother said, gripping Ivy's hands. Thank you for not giving up. I couldn't give up. Not when so many people never got the chance to fight. Will things really change after all this? Ivy looked around at the memorial, at the names carved in stone, at the faces of people who'd waited years for justice. Yes, things will change. Because we're going to make sure they change. Shaw found her an hour later standing alone at the memorial wall, tracing her father's name with her fingertips. The president called, Shaw said. He wants to award you the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Ivy laughed softly. For what? Surviving, for courage, for sacrifice, for doing what nobody else would do. My father did it first. He should get the medal. He's getting one. Posthumously. They're creating a foundation in his name, the Callaway Foundation for Military Ethics. It'll fund whistleblower protection, investigate abuse allegations, support survivors. Ivy's hand trembled against her father's name. He'd hate that, she said. Having his name on things, being remembered as a symbol instead of a person. Maybe, but symbols matter. They show people what's possible. What about Webb Thornton? Webb finished his sentence last month. He's working with the foundation now, helping identify patterns of abuse counseling survivors who don't trust the official channels. And Thornton. She runs a support group for women who've experienced military sexual assault. She'll never undo what she did, but she's trying. Ivy nodded. People can change. Some people. The ones who really want to. Shaw hesitated. There's something else. What? NavSpec War wants you to take over the training program. Completely redesign it from the ground up. Build something new. Ivy turned from the wall. Me. I'm 22 years old. You're also the most qualified person in the country. You've seen the system from inside. You've survived its worst abuses. You understand what needs to change and why. There are 100 people with more experience with the old system, the system that produced Richardson and Webb, and everyone like them. Shaw's voice was firm. We don't need experience with what was. We need vision for what should be. I don't know if I'm ready. Nobody's ever ready for something like this. Your father wasn't ready when he started fighting Richardson. I wasn't ready when I authorized the operation that put you in harm's way. Readiness is a myth. All that matters is willingness. Ivy looked back at her father's name. Commander Jack Phantom Calloway. The man who'd taught her everything, who'd died protecting a truth that took 6 years to finally see the light. He wanted to change the system, she said. That's what he told me before his last deployment. He said the system that trained him was broken, and if he survived, he was going to fix it. He didn't survive. No, but I did. Ivy straightened. Okay, I'll do it. You're sure? I'm sure I'll probably fail. I'm sure I'll make mistakes. I'm sure there will be people who fight me every step of the way. She met Shaw's eyes. But I'm also sure that somebody has to try, and I'd rather fail trying to build something new than succeed at maintaining something broken. Shaw smiled. Your father would be proud. I know, but I'm not doing it for his pride anymore. I'm doing it for all the people who'll come after me, the ones who'll never know what it was like before, because they'll never have to experience it. That's the only legacy worth building. It's the only one that matters. The graduation ceremony took place exactly 1 year later. Ivy stood at the podium looking out at 43 faces. Her first class. The first graduates of the new program she'd spent 12 months building from nothing. The audience was full. Drake sat in the front row, his hair grayer now, but his eyes bright with something that looked like hope. Reed beside him, officially retired, but unofficially consulting on every major decision. Shaw, in her admiral's uniform, representing a navy that was slowly, painfully learning to do better. And others. Webb, who'd traveled from across the country to see this. Thornton, who'd sent a card when she couldn't attend in person. The survivors of Richardson's program, who'd been given front-row seats as a reminder of why all of this mattered. 1 year ago, Ivy began. I stood in this same spot and made a promise. I promised that what happened to my father, to Amanda Chen, to Daniel Reeves, to everyone who was destroyed by the old system, I promised it would never happen again. The audience was silent. I can't guarantee that promise will be kept forever. Systems break down. People get corrupted. Power attracts those who want to abuse it. She paused. But I can tell you what we've built here and why I believe it will last. She looked at the graduates. Young men and women, every background imaginable, every skill set, every personality, every type of strength. We haven't just changed the training protocols. We've changed the culture. These 43 graduates didn't just learn how to fight. They learned how to think, how to question, how to recognize when something is wrong and do something about it. One of the graduates, a young woman named Lucia Reyes, who reminded Ivy so much of herself it sometimes hurt, smiled. They learned that real strength isn't about dominating others. It's about protecting the vulnerable. It's about doing the right thing even when it costs you. It's about being brave enough to speak up when everyone else is silent. Ivy's voice caught. She steadied herself. My father taught me that silence is strength. For most of my life, I believed him. I stayed quiet. I observed. I survived by not being seen. She looked at Drake, at Reed, at all the people who'd helped her become something more than a survivor. But he was wrong. Silence isn't strength. Silence is what people with power use to protect themselves from people without power. Real strength is speaking up. Real strength is risking everything to tell the truth. Real strength is standing in the light, even when the shadows feel safer. The graduates listened with the intensity of people who understood every word. These 43 men and women represent the future of special operations, not because they're the strongest or the toughest, but because they've learned the most important lesson there is: the mission isn't everything. The mission means nothing if we lose ourselves accomplishing it. Ivy stepped back from the podium. My father died fighting for the truth. So did Amanda Chen. So did David Ortega. So did everyone whose name is carved on that wall. She pointed toward the memorial. They didn't die so that we could build an institution that destroys people. They died so that we could build something better. So she looked at Lucia Reyes one more time. Build it. Protect it. Improve it. And never ever let anyone tell you that the old way was better. Because it wasn't. It was broken. And you, all of you, are the proof that we can do better. The applause started slowly, then built. Wave after wave of sound crashing over the assembled crowd. Ivy didn't hear it. She was looking at her father's name on the wall, imagining his face, wondering what he would say if he could see what she'd built. She knew the answer. He'd say she'd made him proud. Then he'd tell her to stop celebrating and get back to work because there was always more work to do. She smiled. Got it, Dad. The reception afterward was everything Ivy hated: speeches and handshakes and people wanting photographs and autographs and pieces of her time. But she endured it because this wasn't about her. It was about the institution she was trying to build. And institutions needed ceremonies and rituals and all the awkward formality that came with them. Drake found her hiding near the memorial wall, nursing a glass of water and watching the sunset. Great speech. I stole most of it from my father's letter. He wouldn't mind. No. Ivy turned to face him. He'd probably say I should have stolen more. Drake laughed. It was a rare sound from him, genuine, unguarded. What are you going to do now? He asked. Now there's another class starting next month. 52 candidates. I have curriculum to finalize, instructors to train, politicians to convince that our budget request isn't insane. That's not what I meant. I know. Ivy looked at her grandmother's ring still on her finger after 3 years. I'm going to keep building, keep fighting, keep trying to earn what my father gave me. You've already earned it, have I? You destroyed Richardson. You changed the system. You built something new from the ashes of something broken. Drake's voice was thick. If that's not enough, I don't know what is. It's not about enough. It's about more. Ivy met his eyes. My father fought alone for 20 years because nobody would stand with him. He won eventually, but he didn't live to see it. I want to build something that doesn't require martyrs, something that works because it's right, not because heroes die to make it work. That might take a lifetime. Then it takes a lifetime. Drake nodded slowly. Your father said something similar once. What? He said that the measure of a life isn't what you accomplish, it's what you make possible. The door you open for other people to walk through. Drake gestured towards the graduates mingling in the distance. You've opened a lot of doors, Ivy. I've opened one door, one program, one class. That's not enough. Then open more. I will. I know. Drake pulled something from his pocket. A small box. I've been waiting for the right moment to give you this. Ivy took the box, opened it. Inside was her father's seal trident. The gold gleamed in the fading light. Where did you get this? It was in the personal effects that got returned after his death. I kept it safe until you were ready. Ready for what? To carry it. Drake closed her fingers around the trident. Your father earned this by surviving impossible things. You've earned it by building impossible things. Different achievements, same symbol. Tears streamed down Ivy's face. I'm not a seal. You're something better. You're what seals should aspire to be. Drake pulled her into a hug. Your father would be so proud. Not because you're brave or skilled or successful. Because you're good. Despite everything that happened to you, you stayed good. I had help. We all have help. The question is what we do with it. Ivy held the trident against her chest, feeling its weight, its history, its meaning. Thank you, she whispered, for everything. For training me. For protecting me. For believing in me when I couldn't believe in myself. That's what family does. Family. Your father was my brother. That makes you my niece. Drake stepped back. I know I'm not. I know I can't replace what you lost. But I want you to know that as long as I'm alive, you're not alone. You'll never be alone. Ivy wiped her eyes. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. It's the truth. Drake smiled. Your father taught me that the truth is always worth telling. Even when it's hard. Even when it costs everything. He taught me the same thing. Then we'd both better live up to it. Night fell over Naval Special Warfare Command. The crowds dispersed. The graduates headed to their celebrations. The dignitaries returned to their helicopters and limousines and carefully scheduled lives. Ivy stayed. She walked to the memorial wall and stood in front of her father's name one last time. I did it, Dad, she said quietly. I finished what you started. I destroyed Richardson. I changed the system. I built something new. The bronze letters didn't respond. They never did. I still miss you. Every day. I still wish you were here to see this. Her voice cracked. But I understand now why you did what you did. Why you walked into that ambush knowing you wouldn't survive. She touched his name. You did it for me. You did it so that I could have this life. This chance. This opportunity to build something better than what came before. The wind picked up. Salt from the Pacific. The smell of the ocean her father had loved. I'm not going to waste it. I promise. She pulled out her father's challenge coin. The one he'd carried through every mission, every operation, every moment of his life. The one she'd held 1,000 times since his death, drawing strength from its weight and history. Silence is strength. Action is proof. You were wrong about silence, she said, but you were right about action. She placed the coin at the base of the memorial wall next to the flowers and photographs and tokens that others had left for their fallen heroes. Rest now, Dad. I'll take it from here. Ivy straightened, turned away from the wall, walked toward the future. Behind her, the memorial stood silent and eternal, honoring the dead. Ahead of her, the training facility blazed with light, preparing for the next generation. And somewhere between the two, a 19-year-old girl, who'd walked into a training circle expecting to be destroyed, had become a 23-year-old woman who was building something that would outlast them all. Not because she was special, because she'd chosen to be. Because she'd learned that the world doesn't change through violence or vengeance or the destruction of enemies. It changes through building, through teaching, through showing people a better way and trusting them to choose it. Her father had fought a war. She was building a peace. And that, in the end, was the only legacy that mattered. Ivy Calloway walked into the light, carrying her father's trident, wearing her grandmother's ring, holding 20 years of secrets that had finally been set free. She didn't look back. There was too much work ahead. And she was ready, not because she was fearless, not because she was perfect, but because she understood what her father had always known, that the mission is never finished, that the fight is never over, that the only failure is giving up. She wouldn't give up. Not today. Not ever. Commander Jack Calloway had died for the truth. His daughter would live for it. And in the end, that was enough. That was everything. That was legacy.